Welcome to the Karmelo Anthony trial. Welcome to the Karmelo Anthony trial. Well, I'm going to make you offended today. I'm going to offend you today. We're going to talk about the Karmelo Anthony trial today. But first, I'm going to have a sip of my Southern sweet tea in my penitentiary tumbler that I got from the Chinese restaurant that had some egg drop soup in it, and I washed it. And I went to the store, and y'all know I had to go to Rouse's. I had to go to the dollar store, to 3 Walmarts before I finally found powdered tea. Man, what's going on with the powdered tea? Man, you should be able to find that everywhere. I'm like, dang, man, we really are living in the last days. Man can't get no powdered tea. But back to Karmelo Anthony. Y'all been watching this trial? I've been dibbling, dabbling in it, but I haven't been watching extensively. And I've been doing that for a reason, because y'all, my mental health matters. And yours too. Y'all should too. And if you're going to keep a positive mental state and be able to live in this world and enjoy your life that you have, we get one life, one simple little bitty life with a limited amount of time. And depending on how old you are, you probably got more time behind you than ahead of you. That's why you can't get so caught up with every single current and political event that happens in the world. Be aware of what's going on around you, but you can't be consumed by every single thing that goes on. So, that being said, I have enough information about the Karmelo Anthony trial where he is charged for unaliving Austin Metcalf to where we can talk about it today. And as I pondered on it, I began to think that I may have some opinions that may offend both sides of the aisle or both sides of the camp when it comes to this case. That needs to be explained, because there are those who, no matter what, they think that Karmelo Anthony is some innocent saint who done no wrong, but he was simply defending himself. And believe me, when I look at this case, I do not see that in itself. Then there are the others who look and say, well, we don't need no trial. We don't need no evidence. He was looking to take the life of some white person that day. And Austin happened to be the one who suffered the wrath of Karmelo Anthony's rage and anger. And listen, I'm about to offend both camps. As you know, the jury selection already happened, and people started crying immediately about the jury selection because they said that the jury was all white. So what I did was I went digging and doing a little research, and they are incorrect. The jury in the Karmelo Anthony trial is 100% not all white. They may be a little shy of being even half white. That being said, they're not black. They're either Hispanic or Pacific Islander or Asian, but they're not white. So there's likely, it's Texas, so there's probably half of them are Hispanic. But Karmelo Anthony's supporters already came out and cried racism because of an all-white jury. That's misinformation and that's lies. So depending on where you fall in your political viewpoints is if they're white or black or Hispanic, right? Because I'm assuming they just mean that everybody who got selected on this jury is automatically going to find Karmelo Anthony guilty because they're not black. That's not how the judicial system works in the United States of America. Go back in time and look at some of the judicial systems that have been set up throughout the world. Ours ain't perfect, but in comparison, we may have one of the best ones that has ever existed. Go live in the Middle East. They just toss you off a building or stone you with little to no evidence. So before you start crying, or go try to be a Christian in Nigeria and see what happens just by being a Christian in Nigeria. Yeah, this is some real stuff. Y'all want to talk real? Let's get real. You don't want real. Everybody, you know what people want to talk about? They want to go out to them other prison channels and listen about this shot caller fighting that shot caller at 50 years old. And if you don't talk about that, they're not interested in your channel. If you talk about spiritual growth, emotional growth, mental growth, they don't want to hear that. They're like, oh man, what kind of prison stories is this dude talking about, man? You can't talk about prison stories where you drink sweet tea, man. Nobody drinks sweet tea in prison. We drink fire, anger, man, and the keys to the yard. And all we do is shank, shank, shank. Them dudes are chumps, man. They're lying. Every day in prison ain't shanking. Every day in prison, people ain't getting unalive. There are days in prison where prison is just steady and quiet. It exists in all prisons. Go look at the federal statistics on how many inmates are unalived in United States prisons each year. Some of these YouTube channels and these prison gurus will have y'all thinking that a dozen people are getting killed in every single state every day. That's not true, man. Go look at the national statistics on how many inmates are unalived in the federal and state prisons every year. It will surprise you on how little it is in comparison to what these channels will make y'all think. Now, do people suffer extreme violence inside the prisons? Sure. And that's what Karmelo Anthony is probably thinking while he sits on that trial. Either that or he's daydreaming about him being free. And he don't know what he's about to get himself into because this trial ain't looking good for Karmelo Anthony. Man, that tea's good. Southern sweet tea. That's the one good thing about a Louisiana prison, man. After work call, you get that Southern sweet tea, go sit on the prison yard. You know, you get some of the homeboys from the neighborhood that you knew, your rounds you grew up with. Y'all go talk about old times. Everybody brings out a big tumbler, filled to the top with that sweet tea, man. Maybe somebody's going to bring out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a hookup. You eat a sandwich, drink your tea, chit-chatting on the yard, watching a football game, because you know they do got football games, or the track meet. Speaking of track meets, they got track meets in prison too. So anyway, I got off topic, man. Back to Karmelo Anthony trial. So the jury is not all white, and that's something to take into consideration. Before you go crying and complaining that an all-white jury is going to convict a teenage black boy who is being charged for unaliving somebody else with a shank. Pocket knives, that's what it was. Karmelo Anthony had a pocket knife. Supposedly, it was about a 5-inch pocket knife. Now, here's where I'm going to make some people offended who are on the side of Austin Metcalf, and they're going to say that you shouldn't have a pocket knife with you at a track meet. Man, come on, man. Before we go crazy and off our rocker, when I was a boy, carrying a pocket knife was a rite of passage. So I don't fault Karmelo Anthony for having a pocket knife. Now, the reason he might have had a pocket knife is a different thing, but I don't know the motive. And I don't think anybody knows the motive on why he actually had a pocket knife. It's perfectly normal for a boy to have a pocket knife, a teenage boy. I mean, I don't think nothing of it. I carry a pocket knife sometimes. Actually, I haven't lately because all the ones that I used to have either broke or got rusted or whatever. They were cheap pocket knives. But I always kept a pocket knife on my belt loop in my pocket. That's normal. So before we say, oh, just because he had a pocket knife, that meant that he had ill intent to take somebody's life that day, and that person being Austin Metcalf. Listen, the pocket knife part to me is not the part that I think is damaging to Karmelo Anthony. I don't have no issue with him having a pocket knife, even at a track meet. People carry pocket knives. You know, it's a pocket knife. So before we start convicting this dude based on the fact that he had a pocket knife, man, get a clear perspective. It's in Texas. Every Texas boy, probably every Texas man, woman, and child got a pocket knife. Most of them got boom, boom, boom blasters. So you know they got pocket knives. The thing that he needs to be worrying about is the witnesses. Because so far, about 15 or so witnesses have took the stand. And out of all those witnesses, by the way, disclaimer, 4 of those witnesses were black. 1 was supposedly his friend and a possible witness for the defense. And he just wrecked the defense's opportunity to use him as a witness, because now the defense has got to be thinking to themselves, I can't use this dude because this dude corroborated the evidence that the other 15 plus witnesses got on the stand and said that Karmelo Anthony was in fact touched, pushed, or nudged by Austin Metcalf. Everybody agrees with that. So, and that's another thing. I'm going to offend some people with that. I come from the old school state of mind where if you put your hands on somebody, then you better be willing to accept the smoke that comes after it. Austin supposedly put his hands on Karmelo first. And so if I'm in the jury, I'm going to struggle with the fact that I am going to have to convict Karmelo Anthony of first-degree unaliving. Now, that don't mean I won't convict him of a lesser charge, but first degree is hard for me until I hear the fact that everybody asked Karmelo to leave, and he didn't leave, including Austin. He was asked multiple times by multiple individuals to leave this tent, leave this area. He could have went, there's a big old world out there. Why did Karmelo Anthony feel it necessary to stay in a squared block area where nobody else wanted him to be and he wasn't supposed to be, supposedly, because that's the rules of how track meets work? That's what they're saying. Some people are saying it's cool, you can intermingle, but either way, he was asked to leave. And he didn't leave, and he got aggressive when he was asked to leave, and he said, I'm gonna hurt somebody if somebody keeps messing with me and telling me to leave. I ain't leaving, I ain't going nowhere, I'm gonna do somebody something. That's not the exact words, I'm paraphrasing, but he got aggressive when he was asked to leave. Finally, Austin got tired of it. And then other people, there's people online who have said that Karmelo Anthony was jumped. There is zero evidence that he got jumped. Now, one of the witnesses claimed that he got jumped. The only person that they claimed ever touched Karmelo, including, remember, there was also 4 black teens, supposedly, who took the stand and saw what happened at this track meet. And they all agreed with everybody else. The only person who touched him was Austin. And Austin gave him a slight nudge to a semi-push to a touch. And he was shanked immediately with the pocket knife. I think Karmelo Anthony was pissed off at the world, just like Tupac's song, Me Against the World. It was him against the world. He had fed into so much rhetoric and so much hatred and so much that ain't nobody for me, everybody's against me, specifically, probably, likely, the white man. And he was just looking for some trouble, man. And he was a troubled teen who came from a 2-family home, privileged. He had a mom and a dad. And he's sitting on trial. And I think, in all likelihood, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's going to get convicted, maybe not of first degree, but possibly second degree. At minimum, I think he gets convicted of manslaughter. And if he gets convicted of manslaughter, I know the other side who supports Austin Metcalf, they're going to have a fit. But if I'm on a jury, I can't look past the fact that Austin put his hands on him first. Now, just because somebody puts their hands on you don't mean you can unalive them. I think Karmelo Anthony was unhinged. I think Austin Metcalf was a typical testosterone-filled male athlete, but I don't think he was looking to hurt nobody that day. He wasn't even looking to fight. He was defending his turf like most young males do. He asked dude to leave. Other people asked dude to leave. He didn't leave. And now he's sitting on trial, and I think he's going to get convicted of a lesser charge. We'll see in the next week or two. But I wanted to share my thoughts with y'all on the Pen and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. What say you? Share in the comments. Do you think that Karmelo Anthony is going to be found guilty? And if you do think he's going to be found guilty, let's share now ahead of time before the jury comes back. What do you think he's going to be found guilty of? The first degree? Maybe second degree, maybe manslaughter. Maybe you think he's going to get a completely innocent verdict. I don't think that's the case. I'm leaning towards second degree to manslaughter. Somewhere in between there is kind of where I'm at. But the opposite end of the spectrum is first degree and innocent. And one of those two things could happen too. They're a possibility. We shall see. But as this trial is unfolding, it ain't looking good for Karmelo. And if, in fact, you are a Karmelo Anthony supporter, and you think that this dude was self-defending himself, there's no evidence that this dude was ever jumped that came out in this trial so far. No evidence whatsoever. Not from the witnesses, not from the camera, not from forensic analysis, whether it was the autopsy report or a forensic analysis of the actual video footage. Nothing shows to where more than one person, meaning Austin Metcalf, actually put their hands on Karmelo. So dude was not jumped. This stuff that people got online, that they doctored up his angry looking photo of his mugshot, dude looks pissed off in that photo. That's why I'm judging it off that. He already looks mad. But of course, you know, the defense got to make you look innocent and vulnerable. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do because they got to present you to the jury. But most of the time, we'll see what the jury does, what the jury says, man. This is a polarizing case. But man, don't go crash out behind this case. You got a life to live, and chances are you got a family, or you got a purpose and a destiny. Don't crash out on something stupid. Is this case stupid? No. A child lost his life. And if I'm looking back at it, I feel bad for the family, specifically, especially of Austin's family, because the way his father got treated when this happened was absolutely pathetic. And it was pathetic from the Karmelo family. They just automatically went on the defense of Austin's father. And that's one particular part of this case that bothers me the most, is the way his father was treated. That dude did not come out aggressively at anybody. That dude came out as a respectful, decent man, saying, I'm just trying to figure out what happened. He just wanted to be there to hear, to listen, to get information. But they felt unsafe by him. If you're so unsafe, and you would have shake somebody. So you go in prison? That's what's going to happen to him, man. This stuff is crazy. It's polarizing, I know, man. But give me a like and subscribe to the Pen and The Shank, the most unusual, unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube, where we just went into a long ranting conversation about this case. This is a lot of information, you know? And so I went everywhere with it, man. Rabbit holes, rabbit holes. Here we go.